So as you can tell, this might be a little frustrating for some of you because it's properties, 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 right? So it's not just pure math, it's concept. Okay. So that's what we're going to focus on, especially in today's AC. After, like when I do the lesson today, I think for some of you that's going to be a bit of a breath of fresh air because you're going to see a bit more math there. Looking at a chocolate bar from the top view, Brian states that it looks like a rectangle. State two properties of Brian's chocolate bar that make it a rectangle. So two things that make it a rectangle. Okay. So you could say something like two pairs of parallel lines or sides. Sorry, I should say sides. So that would be one, right? Um, you could say two pairs of congruent sides or equal side lengths. I think if you said four right angles, that would also work if you said all four are right angles. So any combination of these two would make it uh, a rectangle, right? If you said four right angles and two pairs of parallel sides, good. Right? If you said two pairs of congruent sides and four right angles, like any combination of two will work here. Okay. Next, so give yourselves a mark out of two there, of course, one for each statement. Name the following triangles. So you look at this and you see that two sides are congruent and also the base angles right across from them are also congruent. So this would be an acute isosceles. Acute because all of them appear to be less than 90. And isosceles because of this, because of side lengths and angles, right? Angle and sides. You kind of do one for each. So if you only put down isosceles, it's only half a mark for A that you get because each of them is worth one. Okay, one here and one there. This one would be an obtuse. If you look at this angle here, it's bigger than 90. And scalene because all of them are different. Okay. So have this on your study sheet, right? That there are three names for angles and that there are three names for side length. So you get one mark for each. So question 2 is out of 2, right? Sketch a rhombus and label all congruent parts. A rhombus is really a slanted square. That's what I call it, slanted square. That's what you think of, right? So essentially, it's just gonna be slanted. The sides should look the same. So we just say congruent parts, that those would be congruent parts. You've labeled all the things that are the same in terms of their sides. This angle is the same as this angle. This angle is the same as this angle. Now you've labeled all the congruent parts. Okay. Okay, there's still another option. I think I would have honored this. If you said this, right, and you drew two diagonals like this one is the same as this one is the same as that. Like I think that would have still earned you the marks because there are congruent parts there. So I would say or, right? So I'm looking at the sides and the angles so that you get 1 mark for each congruent thing. So 1 mark for sides, 1 mark for angles. Okay. And I would also honor this if you had the diagonals and you told me that, right? They bisect each other, and bisect means they cut each other in half. Right? So question 3 is out of 2 as well. Put a mark down out of 2 for question 3. 4, a kite is a type of polygon. State 2 properties of this polygon. So property 1, it has 2 pairs of congruent sides. Right? Because if you think about it, I'm going to draw it here. Okay. This side is the same as that. This side is the same as that. So it has 2 pairs of congruent sides. Property 2 would be that the diagonals meet at a 90. That could be another one. Diagonals meet at 90 degrees, or they're perpendicular. Perpendicular. I would prefer that word, but meet at a 90, that's fine. Another one that you could have used, and this is where you should probably, in my opinion, write down what I gave you on page 190 on the study sheet. But if you don't, if you think it's too much work, I would draw 2 versions of each shape and label what's congruent, and then you can just look at it, right? You're like, oh yeah, it's got 2 pairs of congruent sides, right? Oh, diagonals meet at a 90, right? If you've taken the course, you should just look at the diagram and know what's what, okay? The other thing that is congruent is these 2 angles here are congruent. So 1 pair of congruent angles. Maybe what I would say, if you on your study sheet you add this, maybe do one of this like congruent, so that the word is on your study sheet. And at a 90 you go perpendicular. That way you have the terminology as well, right? Congruent means equal, perpendicular means meeting at a 90 degree. Okay, so that's any combination of these 2 will give you the 2 marks. Okay, you just need to know a little bit about each shape. There's way more than 2, right? There could be like another one is that this one right here, this diagonal is bisected, right? So if you wanted to say that one of the diagonals is bisected, that is also a property, right? So keep that in mind. You know what? A very generic, and I think I would honor it because it's true. The sum of interior angles is 360. Any 4-sided object has an interior sum of 360, just like a triangle does. Okay. The triangle has 180, so I should clarify. Okay, here, Martha is building a triangular ramp over a drainage pipe. Oh, sorry, I didn't read that. Jinky said all 4 congruent sides is what I put. Jinky, did you talk about the kite or the rhombus? Because if it's the kite, then it's not true, because it has 2 pairs of congruent sides, not the first question. Okay, all 4 congruent sides. That would, the very first question, sorry, I didn't read it didn't show me anything. Because that would be specifically a square. However, a square is a rectangle. So yes, I would give you that. Yes, I would give you that. If you said all four sides, um, hmm, I don't know. You're twisting my arm there. For today we will, but I think it needs to be specific to that, right? If it had said square, then yes, but rectangle, try to make it fit a rectangle. All right, question 5. Martha's building a triangular ramp over a drainage pipe. She's considering the following designs. Choose a letter that best completes the statement below. This is a provincial exam type of multiple choice. It's the best answer that you're looking for. The type of triangular ramp that allows a wheelbarrow to be pushed smoothly, that's the key word here. So it's easy over the pipe with the least amount of effort from either side. So coming from both sides, which one would it be? Okay, would it be the right? Well, it would be smooth here, but not coming up this way, right? So that one is not it. Uh, Equilateral could be, right? Then there's the acute. This could be this is definitely not an equilateral, but is an acute, right? This is definitely from both sides the same, but we would have to agree that this is the best one. It's smooth. It's the smoothest or the least effort from both sides because the bigger the top angle, the lower this is going to get, right? So it's the obtuse angle, the obtuse triangle that we're after. Okay? Best answer. Okay? And then it'll ask you to justify why this type, so the in this case obtuse, should be used around making reference to the base angles, right? Well, you could say something like this. The bigger the top angle, right, the smaller the base angles become, right? If you make this bigger and bigger, right, it's gonna open up more, right? So the bigger this gets, the smaller these angles, right? They will eventually, right, get smaller and smaller, right? These angles here, the bigger this one gets, the smaller the base angles become. So that's so therefore, you don't have to do this part, by the way. That what I wrote earlier is good enough. Therefore, the obtuse triangle is the best option. Okay. And by the way, just going back up, this is an obtuse and it's isosceles, right? Because if it hadn't been isosceles, then it wouldn't work out. It would be one side would be smoother than the other. All right, so you get 1 mark for justification, 1 mark for choosing the best answer. Okay, 6. Sorry guys, I'm gonna sneeze. It feels like it at least. I'm going into my little corner here. I guess not. Good. Less angle of elevation, yes. Logan, that is fine. That is true, right? The bigger the top, the less the angle of elevation will become. Yeah, that would be considered. These two would be considered angles of elevation. Yeah, you're right. So question 5 is 2 in total, 1 for the right choice, 1 for the justification. right? And now the one that's a bit more math related, consider the following right trapezoid. So I give you the name. So that means that this is a 90. I'm guaranteeing you that this is true, right? So they want angle X, this one right here. And what did I tell you about these two yesterday? I told you that these two always add up to 180 degrees. I guaranteed. So this would be 180 minus the 50. So it's 130 degrees. This is 130, and you can tell that it's bigger than 90, right? So that gets you 1 mark right there. Why? That one is a little trickier, and I know that this one is worth 2 marks. To get y, you would have to agree that the distance straight down here, this is also y, right? Like this length is the same as this. So I'm going to cut this out and write down that this is 2.5. If you go 6, right, you take 6 and we subtract 4 from it, because this is 4 here, right? 6 minus 4 would give you the 2 here. No need to divide because it's only on this side where you have that overhang. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So this is 2 meters. This is 2.5 meters. So we're going to figure out y. Okay, y squared is going to be hypotenuse squared minus the other leg squared. Y is going to be square root of this, so that's 2.25. The square root of that is 1.5 meters. So 1.5 meters. I would say this is worth 2 marks because it's a lot more work. And I'll tell you this, it gets better than that, okay? If you drew out this right triangle here and you labeled this as 2, I would give you 1 mark already for that and 1 mark for actually coming up with the right answer for y. So you get 1 mark for just coming up with the 2 here, subtracting these two sides here to get that, and 1 mark for coming up with the 1.5. If you didn't get this right, don't give yourselves a mark there. So 1 and 2 is out of 3 total for 6. Add it all up, it should be out of 13, and I'll open a slot for you to submit. So if you could please also, if you're in class, submit it electronically. That way you get to keep that paper copy for you to study from.